Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we have a head-to-head. This is the old Cle de Peau loose powder versus the new Cle de Peau loose powder. The new one does not have talc in it. The old one does, and we're going to talk about what else has changed. All right, everybody. So today we are going to focus on this loose powder. Then we're not going to talk about anything else. We're going to talk about loose powder. So let's talk about the components first. So the first thing I would say is they are very similar, if not identical, in the way that they look. There are some minor changes. The new one has 0.84 ounces. The old one had 0.91. So there's a little less product. The old one I have says 1 light. The new one just says 1. And the old one says translucent loose powder. The new one says translucent powder. And then afterwards, it's got some letters after it. The component comes out like this in the old one. So the new one has little dips on the side of it. And you can see there's like a little notch right here. So basically that it like sits better and like closes tighter for the powder. The powder puffs look identical, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. All right, so I'm gonna go through first the differences, the key differences between the old and the new, and then I'm gonna put it on my face. We're gonna actually just get down to it and see what we think. All right, so the old formula, it has talc as the main absorbent ingredient. So that's the main thing that's soaking up the oil. The new formula introduces a talc-free translucent filter formula relying on silica, synthetic fluorogopite, which we've talked about a million times, barium sulfate, and boron nitride, which I don't know what it is, to manage oil and texture without the talc in it. The old one has a fine, translucent, silky texture, and I would argue that it's pore blurring and like gives a radiant, light empowering kind of look. Like it makes your skin look lighter, brighter, and it definitely blurs any imperfections. The new one is lighter in texture. It's very airy, and it has something called a translucent filter formula, supposedly for smoother adhesion and diffusion of light within for radiant, photo-friendly skin. That's their description. The old one is a powder puff. And the new one supposedly is a soft hand puff created by Nishian artisans in Kyoto, and it maintains its structure over time. Again, it feels and looks the same to me, but anyway. The longevity. The old one was great and mattified really well, but not so much that you looked dry, or at least I didn't. It made you look bright and light, and your pores were minimized, and it looked absolutely seamless. The new one says that it's tailored to talc-free formula that still resists shine, dullness, and creasing while preserving a moisture balance for up to 12 hours. I don't remember the old one ever saying anything about the moisture balance, as far as I know. So they both have very similar descriptions. The old, by the way, did have silica and mica in it, but the new one has the fluorogopite, and then it also has this boron nitride, which I'm not exactly sure what it is. So, you know, I think the difference is going to be the texture of it, and then what you think of the finish of the fluorogopite versus the talc. I think the new one is lighter, literally physically lighter, and we're gonna see on camera if we can see any difference. Now, because supposedly the powder puffs are different, which I don't know, I'm going to use my own powder puff for these two, so it looks exactly, I'm using the same thing. That way, no one can say it's because of the powder puff. So we're gonna use the old one first. I'm just taking a powder puff and pressing it into the screen. And we're gonna start with the under eyes, because that tends to be where I use powder the most, because I use generally a very emollient foundation. And so if anything is going to transfer, it's gonna be under my eyes. So if I'm gonna use powder at all, which I generally don't, I'm gonna use it there, okay? So let's do that. We did that. And then we're just gonna take the rest and powder the rest of the face. And like I said, I don't use a lot, but I'm using more than I would use normally because we wanna see how this works. Now the old one definitely has a scent. What is that? I don't know what that is, but there's a little bit of a scent. I think it's kind of dissipated now because I've had it for so long, but anyway, there's a scent to it. There's a little bit of a scent. All right, so then the new one, do the same thing. And I'll tell you, you can already tell in the pan that this is lighter and airier because there's more of it that's come through the screen just automatically. There's just more that comes through the screen because it's so light, like it's so finely milled. So I'm trying to get a little extra off the powder puff because we don't want to, you know, put too much on. Okay, so let's put this here. Again, yes, it is lighter and there is a scent. The scent's still there. Yeah, you can see like I pick up more on the powder puff, not on purpose, but they're just, okay. I'm gonna bend down for a second and look in the 10X mirror. I see no difference. Now, yeah, I see no difference in the 10X mirror. I see absolutely no difference between the two and the way they've set. To me, and I have been using this, so don't worry, this is not the first time I've opened it, used it. To me, I cannot tell a difference between the old formula and the new formula. Cle de Peau, to their credit, has done a phenomenal job of taking the talc out of this product and not ruining it, which says to me that you can do that with other products. I'm saying that directly to some of you out there, some brands that have destroyed your products by taking out the talc and putting the fluorogoplite in there. This looks exactly the same on my skin. You can tell me if you see a difference. And I have worn the powder, the new powder versus the old powder on one side of my face and the other side of my face for quite some time. And I can't see a difference in the way that it breaks down. Now, I want to put a caveat in there that I have dry skin, don't have oily skin. So there's a possibility that this doesn't absorb oil as well as the old formula with talc. I can't tell you that because my skin really does not get like truly oily. I have oils in my skin, and by the 6-7 hour mark, which I'll show you a picture of me at like that, at the like 7 hour mark, so you can see in natural light, so you can see what it looks like, and it looks the same on both sides of my face. You know, it's possible though that there will be a difference, better or worse, for people who have oily skin. I just, you know, I want to be very transparent because what I don't want to have happen is somebody who gets really oily skin uses this new one and says it is either A, much, much better than the old one, or much, much worse, or, you know, slightly better or slightly worse. You know, that's a possibility. So I want to call that out. But for me and my type of skin, there's no difference. None. I mean, I haven't worn makeup for 12 hours in a very long time, so maybe at the 12-hour mark there's a difference, but at the 7-8 hour mark, there's no difference in the way it breaks down on my skin. It's long-lasting, it looks really beautiful, it doesn't accentuate texture, it's not irritating, it breaks down in such a way that it doesn't like, you know, go into every single line, it just sort of dissipates. The oil eats it up after, you know, 8 hours, so it just looks more, I don't ever look dewy, but you know, I mean, that's all I got. So yeah, Cle de Peau did a great job. They managed to create a product without talc that does as far as I can tell, looks the same, performs the same. It's a little less product. The old one is 0.91, this is 0.84. Other than that though, same beautiful finish. Same, you know, works the same. Still gives you that beautiful glow, but it's mattifying, it's blurring your pores. For those of you who ask me if it's worth it to go and buy this, it's at Nordstrom, it's at Cle de Peau, and I'm not sure where else it might be right now. My answer to you is yes, it is. I do not have the deeper shade for obvious reasons. This is the light, and I bought this from Cle de Peau. I did not buy it from Nordstrom, but you know, of all the powders I have, and I have a lot of powders, and there's a lot of good ones out there, The Cle de Peau is probably my favorite loose powder. I mean, it's it's tough at the top, but it really is excellent. When I'm looking for a loose powder, this is the one that I tend to go to. If I'm looking for like more of a blue or the purple or the green, that's a different conversation. But if you're just talking about like all over powder, a translucent shade, the Cle de Peau is my favorite. And I can't discern a difference between the two. I mean, I understand there is a difference, but I can't see it either in performance or look. That's my thoughts. I'd love to hear if you've compared the two, the old and the new, if you picked up the new or if you're going to pick up the old. The old one is still available at Harrods. I will have that link below. If I were in a position to buy loose powder today and I'm in the United States, I would just buy the new one. I can't see a reason to buy the old except that there's a little bit more product in there. But other than that, now if I'm in the UK, then, sure. But performance-wise, I don't see a difference. So that's where I'm at so far. Well, I'll continue to use it over the next couple months and I always update you guys on things if I've changed my mind. But at the moment, that's where I stand. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to see you in another video really soon. Bye.